Chapter 6. Train your mind like a muscle.
Let me destroy a myth that's been holding you back. Emotional control is not a personality trait. You're not born with it or without it. It's not genetic. It's not some mystical quality that certain people have and you don't. It's a skill. And like any skill, you build it through deliberate daily practice. Nobody is born unshakable. That person you admire, the one who stays calm in chaos, who doesn't react to provocation, who seems completely in control of their emotions. They weren't born that way. They train that way. Every calm, controlled person you've ever encountered got that way through repetition, through practice, through showing up every single day and doing the work. Meditation, journaling, breath work, exposure to discomfort. These aren't optional wellness trends. They're not things you do when you feel like it. They're training protocols. Just like you wouldn't expect to bench press 300 pounds without ever training, you can't expect emotional mastery without practice. Your mind is a muscle. And right now, if you're emotionally reactive, if you're controlled by your feelings, if you can't detach, it's because that muscle is weak. But weak muscles can be strengthened. That's the key. You're not stuck. You're not broken. You're just untrained. And starting today, that changes. Let me give you the first training protocol. It's called the Daily Check-In, and it takes 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes that will transform your entire relationship with your emotions. Here's how it works. Before you check your phone, before you engage with the world, sit with yourself. I know what you do right now. Your alarm goes off. You immediately grab your phone. You check messages. You scroll social media. You jump into email. Within seconds of waking up, you've plugged into everyone else's agenda, everyone else's emotions, everyone else's priorities. Stop doing that. The first 5 minutes of your day belong to you, not to your boss, not to your friends, not to the algorithm. To you. Sit up. Close your eyes if that helps. And ask yourself 3 questions. What am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this? What do I want to feel today? That's it. 3 questions. 5 minutes. What am I feeling? Maybe you're anxious. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're already stressed about the day ahead. Name it. Label it. Don't judge it. Just identify it. Why am I feeling this? Maybe you're anxious because you have a difficult meeting. Maybe you're stressed because you have too much to do. Maybe you're feeling inadequate because you scrolled through social media last night and compared yourself to everyone. Understand the source. What do I want to feel today? This is the most important question because now you're setting an intention. I want to feel calm. I want to feel focused. I want to feel present. You're not demanding that you feel that way. You're not forcing it. You're just declaring your intention. This simple ritual creates awareness, and awareness is the foundation of control. You can't detach from emotions you don't even notice. Most people are hijacked by their feelings all day long and never even realize it. They're just reacting, operating on emotional autopilot. The daily check-in interrupts that autopilot. It creates a gap, a moment of consciousness, and in that gap, you have choice. That's not about perfection. It's about awareness. Some days you'll check in and realize you're feeling terrible. That's okay. You're not trying to manufacture positive emotions. You're just trying to notice what's there before it controls you. Do this every single morning for 30 days, just 5 minutes, before your phone, before anything else. Watch what happens to your emotional baseline. Now let me give you the second training protocol, controlled exposure. If you want to build physical strength, you lift progressively heavier weights. If you want to build emotional strength, you expose yourself to progressively more uncomfortable situations. Deliberately, most people spend their entire lives avoiding discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid rejection. They avoid conflict. They avoid anything that makes them feel bad. And what happens? Their emotional resilience atrophies. It weakens. Until even small discomforts feel unbearable. Emotional detachment doesn't come from avoiding hard things. It comes from walking through them without being destroyed. And that only comes from practice. Here's what controlled exposure looks like in practice. Cold showers. Every morning, end your shower with 30 seconds of cold water. Pure cold. As cold as it gets. Your body will scream. Your mind will resist. But you stand there anyway. You breathe through it. You prove to yourself that you can endure discomfort without collapsing. That's emotional training. Difficult conversations. Stop avoiding them. You need to have that talk with your partner. Have it today. You need to address that issue with your coworker. Do it this week. Each time you face a difficult conversation instead of avoiding it, you're building emotional courage. Public speaking. Join Toastmasters. Volunteer to present at work. Put yourself in situations where you're visible, where you might be judged, where you might fail. The anxiety you feel, that's the weight you're lifting. Each time you do it, you get stronger. Rejection practice. This one is powerful. Deliberately seek out small rejections. Ask for discounts you don't expect to get. Pitch ideas that might get shot down. Apply for opportunities you're not sure you're ready for. Desensitize yourself to no, because when rejection doesn't destroy you, you become unstoppable. Each time you face discomfort without collapsing, you're strengthening your nervous system. Your nervous system is trainable. Right now, it might be hypersensitive. Small stresses trigger massive reactions. But through controlled exposure, you teach it that discomfort is not danger, that anxiety is not death, that fear is not a command to retreat. You rewire it. You make it more resilient. You build emotional armor. That's the difference between someone who's controlled by their emotions and someone who controls them. It's not about natural ability. It's not about personality. It's about training. Let me give you a specific 30-day training plan. This is not optional. This is not if you feel like it. This is a protocol. Follow it exactly. Week 1, awareness. Daily check-in, 5 minutes every morning. Emotion labeling. Throughout the day, name your emotions as they arise. Evening reflection. 5 minutes before bed, review your emotional patterns. Week 2, breath control. Continue daily check-in. Add box breathing. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold. Do this for 5 minutes daily. When you feel triggered during the day, take 3 box breaths before responding. Week 3, physical discomfort. Continue daily check-in and breath work. Add cold exposure. 30 to 60 seconds of cold water at the end of every shower. Notice your resistance. Notice that you survive anyway. Week 4, social discomfort. Continue all previous practices. Have one difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Seek one rejection. Ask for something you expect to be denied. Do one thing that makes you socially uncomfortable. By the end of 30 days, you will not be the same person. Your emotional baseline will have shifted. Your ability to sit with discomfort will have expanded. Your nervous system will be more regulated, but only if you actually do it. You have a choice. You can keep wishing you had more emotional control, or you can build it. You can keep being reactive, or you can train yourself to be responsive. You can keep avoiding discomfort, or you can deliberately expose yourself to it and grow stronger. It's not about talent. It's not about personality. It's about discipline. The most emotionally controlled people you know didn't start that way. They started weak, reactive, and controlled by their feelings, just like you. But they trained, they practiced, they showed up every single day and did the work. And now it's your turn. 5 minutes in the morning. Controlled exposure to discomfort. Consistent practice, that's all it takes. Not motivation, not inspiration, just repetition. Your mind is a muscle. Weak muscles can be strengthened, but only if you train them.
You've learned that emotional control is a trainable skill. You've learned the daily practices that build it. Now we need to address the mindset that will either accelerate your progress or sabotage it completely. Your attachment to specific outcomes. Chapter 7. The Art of Non-Attachment to Outcomes.
Here's a paradox that will change your life. The moment you become desperate for a specific result, you've already lost your power. Think about the last time you really needed something to work out. You needed to get that job. You needed that person to like you. You needed that deal to close. You needed that project to succeed. What happened? You probably choked. You overthought everything. You second-guessed yourself. You came across as anxious, desperate, needy. And it showed. People could sense it. They could smell the desperation on you like cheap cologne. Attachment to outcomes creates anxiety, fear, and reactive behavior. When you need something, when you're emotionally attached to a specific result, you're operating from scarcity, from lack, from fear. And fear makes you weak. It makes you compromise. It makes you act in ways that actively push away the thing you want. When you need the job, you interview terribly because you're too anxious to be yourself. When you need the relationship, you become clingy and lose all the attractive qualities that drew them to you in the first place. When you need the deal, you negotiate from weakness and end up accepting terrible terms. Need is poison. Detachment is power. Emotional detachment means doing your best and releasing the result. It means showing up fully, giving maximum effort, executing with precision, and then letting go of what happens next. That's the key. You control your actions. You don't control the outcome. And the moment you accept that, you become unstoppable. Here's the paradox. This mindset makes success more likely. When you're not desperate, when you're not needy, when you're operating from a place of I'm good either way, you perform better. You're more confident. You're more authentic. You're more creative. You're more persuasive. Why? Because you're operating from abundance, not scarcity. Abundance says, I want this, but I'll be fine without it. Scarcity says, I need this or I'm worthless. Which version of you do people want to hire? To date? To do business with? The abundant version. Every single time. Let me introduce you to Stoic philosophy, 2,000 years old and more relevant today than ever. The Stoics had a simple framework. Control what you can control and accept what you can't with grace. You control your effort, your attitude, your preparation, your execution, your integrity, your response. You don't control other people's decisions. You don't control market conditions. You don't control timing. You don't control luck. You don't control whether someone likes you or not. Most suffering comes from fighting against things outside your control. You applied for a job and didn't get it. You can't control their decision. You can spiral, you can catastrophize, you can take it personally, or you can accept it and move on to the next opportunity. You launched a product and it flopped. You can't control market response. You can wallow in failure. You can quit, or you can extract the lessons and build something better. You did everything right in a relationship and they still left. You can't control another person's choices. You can become bitter, you can close your heart, or you can grieve and eventually open yourself to someone new. Detachment is the practice of surrendering to reality while still taking massive action in your sphere of influence. Notice what this isn't. It's not passivity. It's not giving up. It's not nothing matters, so why try? It's the opposite. It's trying harder than ever, but only in the areas where your effort actually matters, where you have control, and releasing everything else. You prepare for the interview like your life depends on it. Then you walk in detached from whether you get the job. You train for the competition with obsessive dedication. Then you compete detached from whether you win. You build your business with relentless focus. Then you launch detached from how people respond. You give everything to what you can control. You surrender everything you can't. That's freedom. That's power. That's how you operate at your highest level without being destroyed by disappointment. Let me tell you what detachment from outcomes actually looks like, because most people misunderstand this completely. Detachment from outcomes doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about the process more than the prize. Athletes call this trusting the training. You've put in the hours. You've done the reps. You've prepared your body and mind. Now, when it's game time, you don't think about winning. You just execute. You trust that the preparation will carry you. When you're detached from the outcome, you enter flow state, that zone where time disappears, where everything clicks, where you perform at a level you didn't know you were capable of. You can't access flow state when you're anxious about results. You can't access it when you're desperate. You can't access it when you're attached. Flow requires surrender. It requires being completely present in the process without emotional interference. And here's the irony. When you detach from needing a specific outcome, that's usually when you get exactly what you wanted. Why? Because you're no longer in your own way. You're not overthinking. You're not second-guessing. You're not sabotaging yourself with anxiety. You're just executing, cleanly, efficiently, powerfully. Think about your best performances in anything, your best interview, your best date, your best presentation. What did they have in common? You probably weren't that attached to the outcome. Maybe you didn't think you had a chance, so you relaxed. Maybe you had other options, so you weren't desperate. Maybe you were just having fun and forgot to be nervous. That's the state you want to operate from all the time. Here's how you practice non-attachment in real life. Before any high-stakes situation, do this mental exercise. Imagine the worst-case scenario. Really visualize it. You don't get the job. The deal falls through. They reject you. Whatever you're afraid of, imagine it fully. Then ask yourself, if that happens, will I be okay? The answer is almost always yes. You'll be disappointed, you'll be frustrated, but you'll survive, you'll move forward, you'll find another opportunity. That realization that you'll be okay either way is what creates detachment. When you know you'll survive the worst case, you stop being controlled by fear of it. Now, before you walk into that situation, set an intention. I'm going to give my absolute best effort. I'm going to show up fully, and then I'm going to release the outcome. You don't control the result, you control the effort. During the situation, stay present. Don't think about whether you're winning. Don't calculate your chances. Don't imagine future scenarios. Just be completely absorbed in the current moment, in the execution. After the situation, let it go. Completely. Don't obsess over what you could have done differently. Don't replay it endlessly. You did what you did. Now you wait for the result without emotional attachment. You have a choice. You can spend your life desperately clinging to specific outcomes, making yourself anxious and weak in the process. Or you can detach. You can give everything to what you control and surrender what you don't. It's not about not caring. It's about caring so much that you refuse to let attachment to outcomes sabotage your performance. The Stoics knew this. The best athletes know this. The most successful entrepreneurs know this. Now you know it too. Control your effort. Release the outcome. That's the art of non-attachment. When you master this, something remarkable happens. You stop being at the mercy of results. Your emotional state doesn't fluctuate based on external validation. You become steady, consistent, Unshakable, because your worth isn't determined by whether you got the job. Your value isn't determined by whether the deal closed. Your significance isn't determined by whether you won. You're already complete. The outcome doesn't change that. It's just information, data, feedback for the next iteration. That's emotional detachment at its highest level.
You've learned to detach from outcomes. You've learned to surrender what you can't control while maximizing what you can. Now, we need to address a misunderstanding that stops most people from ever attempting this. The fear that emotional detachment will make you cold, unfeeling, and inhuman. Chapter 8. Why feeling deeply makes you stronger, not weaker.
Let me address the biggest misconception about everything I've taught you so far. Emotional detachment is not emotional suppression. This is the most misunderstood concept in self-mastery. And if you get this wrong, everything else falls apart. Detachment is not about becoming cold. It's not about shutting down. It's not about pretending you don't feel anything. That's not strength. That's cowardice. Emotional detachment means feeling everything fully, then choosing your response consciously. That's the key. Feel everything. Choose your response. Suppression is different. Suppression is pushing feelings down, ignoring them, pretending they don't exist, stuffing them into a box and sitting on the lid, hoping they stay there. They won't. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They accumulate, they build pressure, and eventually they explode, usually at the worst possible moment, in the most destructive way possible. That's weakness disguised as strength. You see this all the time. Someone appears completely calm, completely controlled, completely unbothered. Then one day, something small happens, a minor inconvenience, a tiny criticism, and they lose it completely. They rage, they break down, they self-destruct. Why? Because they weren't detached. They were suppressing, and suppression always has a breaking point. True power is feeling the anger, the fear, the hurt, and still acting with intention. You feel the rage when someone disrespects you. You acknowledge it, you sit with it, you let it move through your body, and then you choose how to respond based on who you want to be, not what you happen to feel in that moment. You're not a robot. You're not trying to be a robot. You're a human who refuses to be controlled by their humanity. There's a massive difference. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. The most emotionally intelligent people have the deepest feelings. They don't feel less than you. They feel more. They feel everything intensely, fully, completely. Empathy, intuition, passion, joy, grief, love, all of it. But they've learned not to be ruled by those feelings. That's the distinction. Feeling deeply is a strength, not a weakness. Empathy allows you to connect with people. Intuition gives you information your rational mind misses. Passion fuels your greatest work. The goal isn't to become cold. The goal is to become wise. Wise means you feel without drowning. You connect without losing yourself. You care deeply without being controlled. Emotional detachment creates the space between feeling and action, and in that space lives your freedom. Think about someone you know who's genuinely cold, genuinely emotionless. They're not powerful. They're isolated. They're disconnected. Nobody trusts them because there's nothing to connect to. That's not what we're building here. We're building someone who feels everything but responds to nothing automatically. Someone who can sit with grief without collapsing. Someone who can feel anger without attacking. Someone who can experience fear without retreating. That's strength. That's mastery. That's what emotional detachment actually looks like. Now let me give you a framework that will change how you relate to your emotions forever. Use your emotions as data, not directives. Your emotions are giving you information. They're signals. They're telling you something important, but they're not giving orders. Anger tells you a boundary was crossed. Someone violated your values. Someone disrespected you. Someone treated you unfairly. That's valuable information. But anger doesn't get to decide your response. Just because you're angry doesn't mean you must lash out. You can feel the anger, understand what it's telling you, and then choose a strategic response. Maybe you address the boundary violation calmly and directly. Maybe you remove yourself from the situation. Maybe you realize your boundary was unreasonable and you adjust it. You have a choice. The anger provided data. You use that data to make a conscious decision. Fear tells you something matters. You're afraid of the presentation because you care about your career. You're afraid of the conversation because you care about the relationship. You're afraid of failing because you care about succeeding. That's valuable information. But fear doesn't get to decide your response. Just because you're afraid doesn't mean you must retreat. You can feel the fear, understand what it's telling you, this matters to me, and then move forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is feeling fear and acting with intention anyway. Sadness tells you you've lost something valuable, a relationship, an opportunity, a version of yourself. The fact that you're sad means what you lost mattered. That's valuable information. But sadness doesn't get to decide your response. Just because you're sad doesn't mean you must shut down, isolate, or give up. You can feel the sadness, honor what was lost, and then choose how to move forward. These are signals, not commands. The mistake most people make is treating emotions as directives. I'm angry, so I must lash out. I'm afraid, so I must retreat. I'm sad, so I must collapse. I'm anxious, so I must avoid. No, that's emotional slavery. That's being controlled by chemical reactions in your nervous system. Emotional detachment means, I notice I'm angry. What is this anger telling me? What do I want to do about it based on my values, my goals, my long-term vision, not based on my immediate impulse? Feel it. Understand it. Then choose your move based on your values, not your nervous system. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you feel a strong emotion, try this. Step 1. Name it. I'm feeling anger. Not I am angry. You're not the emotion. You're the person experiencing the emotion. Step 2. Locate it. Where do you feel it in your body? Chest, stomach, throat? This creates awareness and keeps you from being overwhelmed. Step 3. Ask what it's telling you. What information is this anger giving me? What boundary was crossed? What value was violated? Step 4. Let it move through you. Don't suppress it. Don't act on it. Just let it exist. Breathe. Give it space. Emotions are temporary if you don't feed them with rumination or reaction. Step 5. Choose your response. Now that you understand what the emotion is telling you, what's the wise move? What aligns with who you want to be? This process takes practice. At first, you'll still react automatically sometimes. That's okay. You're building a new skill. The goal is progress, not perfection. But over time, this becomes automatic. You feel something intense, and instead of being hijacked by it, you observe it. You understand it. You use it. Then you choose your action. That's emotional intelligence. That's emotional mastery. That's the highest form of strength. Let me be very clear. I'm not asking you to become less emotional. I'm asking you to become more conscious of your emotions. Feel everything, the full spectrum, the joy, the grief, the rage, the love, the fear, all of it. That's what makes you human. That's what makes you capable of deep connection, meaningful work, and profound experiences. But don't let those feelings drive the car. You drive. The emotions are passengers. Important passengers. Passengers with valuable information. But passengers nonetheless. You're the driver, always. The people who change the world aren't emotionless. They're deeply emotional. They care intensely. They feel passionately. But they channel those emotions into productive action instead of destructive reaction. Martin Luther King Jr. felt rage at injustice. He channeled it into a movement. Nelson Mandela felt grief over his imprisonment. He used it to build resilience and vision. Every great artist feels deeply. That's where the art comes from. But they don't let those feelings prevent the work. Feeling deeply makes you stronger, not weaker, if you learn to feel without being controlled. That's what we're building. Not robots, not cold, disconnected people, but humans who feel everything and still choose their path with clarity and intention. You don't need permission to feel your emotions. Feel them all, fully, completely. Honor them. Thank them for the information they provide. Then act according to your wisdom, not your wounds.
You've learned that emotional detachment amplifies feeling rather than diminishing it. You've learned to use emotions as data instead of directives. Now we need to talk about the long game, how this practice compounds over time into unstoppable momentum. Chapter 9. The Long Game. Why detachment builds unstoppable momentum.
Most people are playing checkers. You're about to learn how to play chess. Checkers is reactive. It's short-term. It's about the immediate move, the immediate feeling, the immediate result. Chess is strategic. It's long-term. It's about position, patience, and the end game. Emotional detachment is how you win at chess while everyone else is still playing checkers. Here's what most people don't understand. Every emotional reaction derails you from your path. Someone criticizes your work. You react emotionally. You get defensive. You spiral. You waste 3 days being upset instead of improving. That's 3 days off your path. Something doesn't work the first time. You react emotionally. You doubt yourself. You pivot to something completely different before giving your original idea time to develop. That's starting over. That's losing momentum. A setback happens. You react emotionally. You catastrophize. You tell yourself you're not cut out for this. You quit. That's game over. Most people fail not because they lack talent. They fail because they can't stay consistent. They can't absorb hits and keep moving. Every emotional reaction is a detour. and enough detours mean you never reach your destination. Emotional detachment keeps you locked onto your target for years. That's the key. Not days, not weeks, years, decades, your entire life. While other people are being thrown off course by criticism, setbacks, and obstacles, you're steady. You're consistent. You're moving forward every single day, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what happens. You're stacking wins while they're processing feelings. Think about the most successful person in your field, the person who's been at the top for years. What do they all have in common? They stayed in the game. They absorbed criticism that would have destroyed most people. They faced failures that would have made most people quit. They dealt with obstacles that would have made most people pivot. But they didn't quit. They didn't pivot unnecessarily. They stayed the course. They had emotional detachment. That's not talent. That's not luck. That's psychological armor. And you can build it. Let me tell you about compound discipline. You already understand compound interest financially. A little money invested consistently over time becomes a fortune. Not because of any single deposit, but because of the accumulation. Emotional control works the same way. Not reacting to that insult today seems small, insignificant even. Staying calm in that stressful meeting, nobody will remember it by next week. Not defending yourself when someone questions you feels like you're letting them win. But do it 100 times, do it 1,000 times, do it 10,000 times, and you've built something most people will never have, a reputation for being unshakable. You become the person others rely on in chaos. When everything's on fire, who do they call? Not the person who panics, not the person who gets emotional, not the person who adds to the drama. They call you because you're steady, because you're calm, because you don't make situations worse with your reactions. Opportunities flow to the unshakable. Leadership positions, high-stakes projects, important relationships, they all require someone who won't collapse under pressure, someone who won't be derailed by emotions, someone who stays locked on the target. That's compound discipline. Small acts of emotional control creating exponential results over time. Every time you pause instead of react, you're making a deposit. Every time you respond strategically instead of emotionally, you're making a deposit. Every time you stay focused despite how you feel, you're making a deposit. And those deposits compound. They build on each other. Until one day you look around and realize you've become someone completely different. Someone reliable, someone trusted, someone powerful. Not because of one heroic moment, because of 10,000 unremarkable moments where you chose discipline over emotion. Detachment isn't about one moment, it's about the trajectory of your entire life. Think about where you'll be in 5 years if you master this. Every day, you're absorbing hits without being knocked off course. Every day, you're making progress while others are distracted by drama. Every day, you're building while others are burning out. Where does that leave you in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Miles ahead. Not because you're more talented, because you stayed consistent. Because you didn't let emotions derail you, because you played the long game while everyone else played for immediate gratification. Now let me show you why this matters more than any other skill you'll ever develop. The detached person always outlasts the reactive one. Always. In business, in relationships, in life. Detachment wins because it's sustainable. Reactive people burn out. They exhaust themselves with drama. They make enemies everywhere they go because they can't control their responses. They create chaos, and chaos is draining. They might have bursts of energy, bursts of success, but they can't maintain it. Eventually, they collapse, they flame out, they quit. They move on to the next thing because they couldn't handle the sustained pressure of this thing. You're different. You stay steady. You build slowly. You make decisions based on strategy, not emotion. You don't create unnecessary drama. You don't burn bridges. You don't exhaust yourself with reactions. You conserve energy. You focus it. You deploy it strategically instead of impulsively. And in the long run, 5 years, 10 years, 20, you're still standing while everyone else has flamed out. That's the power of detachment. Think about your industry, your field, your domain. Who's been there the longest? Who's survived every trend, every crash, every challenge? It's not the flashiest people. It's not the most talented people. It's the most consistent people, the ones who stayed calm, the ones who kept showing up, the ones who didn't let emotions dictate their decisions. Let me give you a practical vision exercise. Close your eyes and imagine 2 versions of your future. Version 1, you master emotional detachment. 5 years from now, you've stayed consistent on your path. You've absorbed criticism without quitting. You've faced failures without spiraling. You've dealt with setbacks without being derailed. You've built a reputation for being steady, reliable, unshakable. Opportunities have come to you because people trust you in high-pressure situations. You've compounded your discipline into exponential results. Where are you? What have you built? Who have you become? Version 2, you remain emotionally reactive. 5 years from now, you've quit 3 different ventures because criticism hurt too much. You've pivoted 7 times because setbacks made you doubt yourself. You've burned bridges because you couldn't control your reactions. You've exhausted yourself with drama. You're starting over again because you couldn't stay consistent long enough to see results. Where are you? What have you built? Who have you become? You have a choice, right now, today. Which version do you want to be? The choice isn't made once, it's made every single day. Every time you face criticism, every time something goes wrong, every time you're tempted to react emotionally. In those moments, you choose checkers or chess, short-term or long-term, reaction or detachment, and those choices compound. They determine everything. Here's what I want you to do this week. When you're tempted to quit, to pivot, to react, pause and ask yourself, is this emotion going to matter in 5 years? That insult someone just threw at you won't matter in 5 years. That setback you just experienced won't matter in 5 years. That criticism you just received won't matter in 5 years. But your consistency, that will matter in 5 years. Your ability to stay on path despite emotions, that will matter in 5 years. Your reputation for being unshakable, that will matter in 5 years. So make the choice that serves your 5-year self, not your right now feelings. That's playing chess. That's the long game. That's how you build unstoppable momentum. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's not about being cold. It's about recognizing that emotional reactions are expensive. They cost you time. They cost you focus. They cost you momentum. And you can't afford them anymore. Not if you're serious about winning. Not if you're serious about building something that lasts. Not if you're serious about becoming someone who doesn't just have success. Someone who sustains success. The reactive person gets lucky occasionally. The detached person builds empires.
You've learned that emotional detachment is your competitive advantage over time. You've learned that consistency beats talent when talent can't stay consistent. Now, we need to bring all of this together into a new way of operating, a fundamental shift in how you see yourself and your emotions. Chapter 10. Your new operating system, living as the detached observer.
We've covered a lot of ground. You've learned the techniques. You've learned the practices. You've learned how to pause, how to respond, how to detach from outcomes and toxic people. Now we're going to go deeper, to the foundation, to the core shift that makes everything else possible. You need to shift your identity from someone who experiences emotions to someone who observes them. This is the final level of mastery, and it changes everything. Right now, when you feel anger, you probably think, I am angry. When you feel anxious, you think, I am anxious. When you feel depressed, you think, I am depressed. You're identifying with the emotion. You're becoming it. But here's the truth. You are not your emotions. You never were. You are the consciousness that experiences emotions. You are the awareness that watches thoughts and feelings arise and pass away. You are the space in which all of this happens. That's the shift. Think about it like this. When a storm passes through the sky doesn't become the storm. The sky remains the sky. The storm is temporary. It moves through. The sky is constant. You are the sky. Your emotions are the weather. There's anger passing through. There's anxiety moving in. There's excitement arising. But you, the core you, remain untouched. This observer perspective is the ultimate form of detachment, and it's where true freedom lives. When you operate from this perspective, emotions lose their power over you, not because you're suppressing them, not because you're ignoring them, but because you've stopped identifying with them. You can feel intense anger and simultaneously observe yourself feeling it. There's you, the consciousness, and there's the anger. Two separate things. The anger doesn't define you. It's just something happening in your experience right now. That's the key. Separation between the observer and the observed. Let me give you a mantra that will change your life if you use it. I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am the awareness behind them. Repeat this when you're triggered, when you're overwhelmed, when you're about to react. Say it silently to yourself. I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am the awareness behind them. Watch what happens. Instantly, there's space, distance, perspective. The emotion is still there. The thought is still there. But you've stopped being consumed by it. You've remembered who you actually are. The awareness, not the content of awareness. This is not abstract philosophy. This is practical psychology. This single mindset shift gives you control over the one thing that matters most, your response. Because when you're identified with the emotion, when you think you are the anger, you have to act on it. It's who you are. You have no choice. But when you're the observer, when you recognize that anger is just something passing through, you have complete freedom. You can let it pass. You can investigate it. You can choose how to respond. Or you can choose not to respond at all. You're no longer the storm. You're the sky the storm passes through. And storms always pass. Always. No emotion lasts forever if you don't feed it with rumination or reaction. Emotions are temporary weather patterns. They come, they go, they change. But you, the awareness, remain constant. Here's how to practice this in real time. The next time you feel something intense, instead of saying, I am angry, say, I notice anger arising. Instead of, I am anxious, say, I notice anxiety present. Do you feel the difference? One makes you the emotion, the other makes you the observer of the emotion. I notice fear, I notice frustration, I notice sadness. You're creating that crucial gap, that separation, that space where freedom lives. And in that space, you have choice, always. Now let me tell you something radical. Live as if you're already free. Because the moment you master emotional detachment, you are. Most people have this backwards. They think, once my circumstances change, once I achieve my goals, once people treat me better, then I'll be at peace. Then I'll be happy. Then I'll be free. That's a trap. That's waiting for permission from the world. Emotional detachment flips the script. You choose peace now. You choose clarity now. You choose freedom now. Regardless of conditions, regardless of chaos, regardless of what's happening around you. You don't need their permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You don't need everything to work out. You choose your internal state independent of external conditions. That's power. That's freedom. That's the ultimate form of control. Not controlling the world, but controlling your relationship to the world. And here's the paradox. When you stop needing the world to be different, that's when it changes. When you're desperate for things to change, you reek of neediness. You make poor decisions. You accept terrible situations. You compromise yourself. And things stay stuck. But when you're already at peace, when you're already free internally, you operate differently. You make clear decisions. You set firm boundaries. You take strategic action. You become a force. And forces aren't stopped by feelings. Forces move through obstacles. Forces create change. Think about every powerful person you've ever encountered. What did they have in common? They didn't seem to need anything from you. They weren't desperate. They weren't needy. They were already complete. That's because they'd achieved internal freedom. They'd stopped waiting for external validation, external success, external peace. They'd claimed it internally first, and then the external followed. You can do this too, starting right now. You don't have to wait until you've achieved your goals. You don't have to wait until you've mastered everything in this book. You don't have to wait until your circumstances improve. Right now, in this moment, you can choose to operate as the observer. You can choose to see yourself as the awareness behind your thoughts and emotions. You can choose freedom. It's just a choice. A shift in perspective, a decision about who you are. Are you the person being tossed around by emotions, or are you the consciousness observing emotions pass through? You have a choice, always. Here's your new operating system, your new way of being. Morning. Before you do anything, sit for 5 minutes and connect with yourself as the observer. I am the awareness. Thoughts and feelings will arise today. I will observe them. I will not be controlled by them. Throughout the day, when emotions arise, label them from the observer perspective. I notice anger, I notice fear, I notice excitement. Create that separation. Maintain that awareness. When triggered, use the mantra. I am not my thoughts, I am not my emotions. I am the awareness behind them. Let it create space. Let it remind you who you actually are. Evening, reflect on moments when you successfully observed rather than identified. Celebrate those wins. They're building your new identity. This is not a technique you use occasionally. This becomes who you are. You're no longer someone who tries to be emotionally detached. You're someone who fundamentally operates from the observer perspective. It's your default mode, your new normal, your upgraded operating system. And from that place, everything changes. Your relationships improve because you're not reactive. Your work improves because you're not derailed by emotions. Your decisions improve because they're based on clarity, not chaos. You become unshakable, not because nothing bothers you, but because you've stopped identifying with what bothers you. You've stopped being the emotion and started being the awareness. The emotion can be intense. Let it be intense. You're the sky. The storm can rage. It doesn't change what you are. This is the ultimate freedom. This is what all the practices have been building toward. This is the destination, and it's available to you right now, not someday. Right now. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your circumstances. You are not your past. You are not your failures. You are not your successes. You are the awareness behind all of it, the consciousness observing all of it, the sky through which all weather passes, and that cannot be touched. that cannot be controlled, that cannot be taken away. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. You just forgot for a while. Everything in this book has been about helping you remember. You've remembered now. You know who you are. You know where your power lives. Now go live from that place. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but consistently, intentionally, as the observer, as the awareness, as someone who is fundamentally free regardless of what emotions arise, what thoughts appear, what circumstances emerge.
You are the sky. Everything else is just weather. And the weather always passes.